Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is Biblical Insights. The title of our video today is Jesus Heals a Deaf Man, and this is section number 33 of our study of Jesus' life and ministry as it's presented by Mark. And so our text today is taken from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 7, verses 31 through 37. Now, on the surface, this may not seem like a terribly important text. Jesus just heals a deaf guy. I mean, that's all it does. But there's some very interesting things for us to think about in relationship to what Jesus did and how he did it and why he did it and his overall ministry of what he came to do. And so let's read this brief text and see what there is for us to learn here. We'll be reading, as always, from the Simplified New Testament, and we'll begin with verse 31 of Mark 7. Jesus left Tyre and traveled through Sidon back down to the Sea of Galilee and to the 10 cities area. While he was there, some people brought him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk. They begged Jesus to place his hands on the man and heal him. Jesus took the man inside the house, away from the crowd, and put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit on the ground and touched the man's tongue. Looking up to heaven, Jesus sighed and said, "Be opened." Immediately, the man could hear and speak clearly. Jesus told everyone there to keep quiet about it, but the more he told them not to talk about it, the more they did talk about it. Everyone who heard about it was amazed and said, "He can do everything. He even heals those who cannot hear or speak, and he does everything so well." So, Jesus is very popular at this time. He can't go any place, hardly, without having crowds all around him. And they constantly bring to him sick people so that he can heal them. Now, I've mentioned this before, and I don't want to, seem to be harping on the same idea all the time. But one of the things that I think is important for all people everywhere throughout all time, it is to maintain a proper focus in life and keep in mind what is most important. And in these stories, one of the things we see is that while Jesus came to be a spiritual leader, to make a difference in people's spiritual lives, to provide a sacrifice of atonement so that their sins could be forgiven, so they could enjoy a relationship with God, so they could have hope for the future. Okay, that's what Jesus came to do. And yet, what these people are seeing and what they want, what they're focused on, is what he can do for them physically. Now, there isn't anything wrong with somebody who has a physical problem wanting to have that problem removed. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, right? This guy was deaf, couldn't hear, right? And consequently couldn't speak because he'd probably been deaf all his life and didn't know what spoken language sounded like. And one of the ways you learn to speak is by hearing other people speak and imitating the sounds they make. Well, if you can't hear, how are you going to do that? You see, that doesn't work. So the man can only not hear, he cannot speak either in any effective way. And so they bring him to Jesus. Now, it doesn't say specifically who these people were, but they're probably his family or his very close friends, or obviously people who care about him. And so they want Jesus to do something here. They want Jesus to heal this man. Now, that's not wrong. It wasn't sinful. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not saying that. It wasn't wrong for them to want Jesus to heal this man. But we see this over and over and over and over and over again. And even Jesus finally, at some point in his ministry, gets kind of tired of it. And we learn about that from the Gospel of John. At some point, we'll go look at that story. But Jesus kind of chides them for it and says, the only reason you're following me is because of the food I gave you. Okay? And there's more important stuff going on here, and you need to pay attention to what's most important. See, but they didn't get that. And I think sometimes we're the same way. We don't get it. We don't really focus on what's most important, because the physical stuff of our everyday physical life is so urgent. It's right there. When I have a headache, when my head really hurts and I can't think and I can't do my job, then that's really important to me. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the pain inside my head, right? And I have some issues. I have some problems. I have a very bad knee that needs to be replaced. It's got arthritis and it doesn't work well, and I'm in pain a lot when I walk. And when my knee hurts, I'm thinking about my knee. That's normal, right? If you've got a toothache, I hate toothaches. I hate that. But when you've got one of those, that's what you think about, because it hurts, right? And if you can't hear, that's serious. If you can't walk, that's, all of these different things that were bothersome to people, they were so big of an issue in people's lives that they wanted Jesus to do something about it. He had the power to do it, and so they wanted him to do it. Now, nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly normal, okay? So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's wrong to want to be healed. It's not. But Jesus didn't come to do that. Okay, that's the simple thing. God did not become a human being and come into the world and live and learn the trade of carpentry and be part of a family. And when his stepfather Joseph died, he becomes, the head of the family, and he's taking care of his brothers and sisters and taking care of he didn't come and do all that and then began a ministry, right, that would result in his death on the cross just so he could heal a few people. That's not what he came to do. Okay? Jesus came to save souls. But in order to get people to listen to the message he was declaring, he worked miracles. And his miracles weren't just healing people. I mean, he did all sorts of things, right? In John's gospel, he turned 180 gallons of water into some very, very good wine, right? And he raised the dead. He multiplied loaves and fishes and fed many thousands of people on more than one occasion. He walked on water. He did all sorts of amazing things that nobody else today can duplicate. Nobody can do those sorts of things. Even people who claim to be able to work miracles, they can't do the sorts of things Jesus did. Jesus worked miracles, including healing people, so that people would see there was power there, real power, not just a claim. Hey, listen to me, I can do all sorts of stuff. Why, back yonder over in the other city, I did thus and so. Anybody can make up a story like that, right? But Jesus did things that changed people's lives. Okay? He was there. They were there. He helped them. He made a difference. Well, why did he do that? Not just to make that physical difference, because that's not ultimately important. The body's going to get old and sick and die anyway, right? All he was doing was prolonging physical life a little while in some cases, but that wasn't ultimately important, and that's not why he came. He did those things in order to get people's attention so they would listen to the spiritual message that he was bringing, that they were sinful, that they needed to repent, that they needed to turn to God, they needed to change their lives, they needed to ask him for forgiveness, they needed to be baptized for the forgiveness of sin, They needed a relationship with God. And that is more important than being physically healed of whatever your problems are, right? You see, I have to wear glasses because my eyes don't work so good. I wish I didn't have to wear glasses. I wear hearing aids. You see, I got a little hearing aid back here behind my ear. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, there it is, right? I wear hearing aids in my ears because my ears don't work any good. They just don't work. Without my hearing aids, I hear only about 30% of what's going on. With my hearing aids, I hear about 80%, right? So I still have to say, what? Quite often to people because I don't hear very well. Man, wouldn't it be great if God would fix my ears and fix my eyes so I didn't need glasses or hearing aids? That'd be great. Wouldn't it be nice if he would heal my knee so I didn't have to have the doctor put in a new plastic and steel knee, which I'm going to have to do here in a few months? Wouldn't it be great if he would get all of the arthritis out of my body so that I didn't have any more arthritis pains? I have arthritis in my feet, in my knees, and my hands. Okay? And I have bursitis in my hips. My hips ache sometimes when I walk. Wouldn't it be great if God would just heal me of all of that? I would be very happy and very grateful. So far, he has chosen not to do that. That's okay with me. You know, I have some difficulties I have to cope with, but I'm okay. It's painful, yeah, but that's not what's most important. You know what's really important is that I do this, that I write books and make videos that teach people. And as long as I can do this, the fact that my knee hurts, the fact that I have to say what? Or whatever, put my glasses, you know, those are just little things, minor little things, you know. Now, some people have more serious problems. I understand that. Some people are in a lot more pain than I'm in, and they can't do things because of their handicap. I get that, right? But still, those physical things aren't what's most important. The most important things are the spiritual things, the lasting things, things that transcend this physical life. Because we're all going to get old and die. Or maybe we won't get old. Maybe we'll die when we're young. But we're all going to die. And that doesn't mean the end of anything. It's just a transition into a different stage of life, a different stage of existence, right? So this life is just temporary. This physical life is temporary. And so anything associated with it is temporary and therefore not as important as the next life. And we need to understand that. So, you know, if you have issues, if you have problems like this deaf man and you want God to heal you, go ahead and ask him. He might do it. Then he might not. If he doesn't, you can't get angry at him. You have to accept the will of God. If he decides not to heal you, then he has some reason for not doing it. You have to accept his will and get on with life and do the best you can. Now, there are a couple of questions that people have in this text, but they wonder, you know, why this happened and why that happened. You know, why did Jesus take the man inside instead of healing right there in front of the people? I don't know. Nobody knows. Why did Jesus put his fingers in the man's ears? Probably to communicate to the man that he was going to do something about his hearing. Okay? Because if Jesus spoke to the man couldn't hear him, wouldn't know what he was saying, right? So he was probably communicating to the man. All right? So why did Jesus spit? I have no idea. No one has any idea. And if you hear somebody try to give some explanation, then whatever they're telling you, they're just making that up because nobody knows why Jesus did that. It may have had something to do with what he was doing because then he touched the man's tongue, right? Of course, maybe he touched the man's tongue for the same reason he put his fingers in his ear, to try to communicate to the man that he was going to help him. So why did he spit? I have no idea. Maybe he needed to clear his throat. Maybe he had something in his mouth that he didn't like, and so he spit it out. Maybe he was trying to say, whatever the problem is in there, it's bad, and he spit. Maybe that's what he was trying to do. We don't know. Okay, we don't know why Jesus did that. Nobody knows, and it really doesn't matter. You know what matters? Is that Jesus healed the man, and the man could speak, the man could hear, and everybody was delighted. But why did Jesus do it? Well, because first, he wanted to help people. He had the power to help, so he helped. When you have the power to help someone, you should help them. That's following Jesus' example, isn't it? If you have the power to help somebody, help them. Unless there's a very, very good reason not to. And sometimes there is. Sometimes there's a good reason not to help somebody. Sometimes people have to learn to help themselves. And so you say, I've helped you before. Now, this time, you need to do it yourself. Sometimes that's appropriate. But generally speaking, if somebody needs help and you can help them, you should do that. I'm sorry, we had a little bit of a glitch there. I apologize for this edit, but we're back now. So when you can help people, you should help them. But again, that wasn't really why Jesus came, to help people with their physical problems. He came to help with their spiritual problems. So as you think about your own situation, what kind of problems do you have? Do you have eye problems or ear problems or knee problems or back problems, or do you have some other kind of problem? Okay, I got those too. Lots of people have those. As you get older, you get them, right? Maybe you have something completely different that's a bigger problem. I don't know. But think about your problems and separate them out into two categories. You've got the physical stuff, but then there's the spiritual stuff. And just as we all have some kind of physical issues that we would, like God to take away, maybe he will, maybe he won't, we all also have some spiritual issues that need attention, don't we? Right, yeah, we do. And so, which is most important? Well, the spiritual ones. And so, let's focus on the more important things, the spiritual things, the things that will continue to matter when this physical life is done and we no longer live in this world, in this body. You see, that's what should be most important. And so Jesus came and did lots of amazing things and helped lots of people, and that's good, and we should help people if we can. But why he came was to provide a sacrifice of atonement so that people's sins could be forgiven, so that people could be saved, so that people could have a relationship with God, so that people could have hope for the future. In this world, a lot of people don't have much hope that things are ever going to get any better. But if you have hope for the future because of a relationship with God, you know that things are going to get better. In the end, when this life is done and you move into the next phase of existence, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. Okay? That's what Jesus came to do. And so we need to focus on that part of Jesus' ministry, not on the healing and the miracles and all that stuff. Okay? So, as always, as you think about those things, I would encourage you to read your Bible, pray, go to church, and may God bless.